Welcome back, Geordies. It's Adam from Two for Joy. We're going to start off by touching on the Champions League. Newcastle moving into the round of 16. A great achievement with a win over Karabag last night. And then basically I want to look at the future of the Premier League, some homegrown talents and whether we feel their wages are in line with where their prospects are. And then look at the wage structures across a few clubs. I think it'll be interesting. Make sure you stay to the end. Like and subscribe. Let's get into it. So we'll start off with the 3-2 win over Karabag at St James's. And I'll be quite honest, while I'm glad we're through to the round of 16 and it's a great achievement, I'm not taking nothing away from Eddie. I was really disappointed when this lineup came out that there was only Alex Murphy in the starting lineup. And I'll be quite honest, the same thing, seeing Will Asula starting up front as the 9. I was really kind of hoping we'd either see Nick Voltemade back in up top or players like Sean Neve get a run out. I mean, Sean Neve looks like a talented youngster. And I kind of felt like going into this game 6-1 up, if it was my choice, I would have brought in Alex Murphy. I'd have probably played him at centre-back and put Dan Burn out at left-back, kept Lewis Hall on the bench. I'd have put Leo Shahar in at right-back. I thought he looked good when he came on. I'd like to see Sam Alabi come in somewhere into the midfield with Sandro Tonali and Joel Linton. I would have liked to have seen Sean Neve up front, and I'd probably say I'd like to have seen Trevan Sanusi out on the left wing and kind of just go into this first half with no expectations. And sure enough, if we were to concede a couple of goals, then you've got the players on the bench, you've got the mainstays to change this up and just shore it up. But it would have been really nice to see some of these youngsters get a run out and blood them for next season, blood them for seasons to come. And I really feel like we have to be so far in front, or the games can be completely down and out for any of these youngsters to actually get progression or a foot in the door. And we want to see more players like Lewis Miley. Do you know what I mean? He's come through, he's been incredible, and I'm sure some of these youngsters won't make it. But if you don't give them the chance, you'll never know. But I will say, as for players that played well, I thought Alex Murphy put in a really sound display. I thought the really small cameo that Leo Shahar got, he looked decent. He looked solid, very comfortable. And I'd have to say, Joel Linton, last night, I was a little bit disappointed for him. I understand Eddie's getting a few minutes in his legs and he doesn't want to overdo it, but he looked like he wanted to play last night. And Joel Linton at his best is a spectacle to watch. He's fantastic. So I was a little bit disappointed for Joey that he got took off so early in the game. And then for unconvincing performances, I have to say, I felt like there was some major complacency across this team, and understandably so. At 9-1 up, 5 minutes in on aggregate, realistically, you're always going to have some complacency creep in, and that's why I'd like to see the youngsters given a go, because they're not going to go out and be there. They're not going to go out there and be complacent just purely because it's their chance to shine. And I thought Harvey Barnes looked a little bit complacent last night. Will Asula, I mean, he should be chomping at the bit to get in that team and score some goals. And I thought he was poor, to be honest. And the same, I thought Sven Botman, even though he scored the goal, I thought there was an air of complacency. And it might not have been him. It might have been the fact that we pushed so many players forward and just left ourselves so open at the back and made it into a basketball game. And then even so, Aaron Ramsdale, and I'll be quite honest, with Aaron Ramsdale, I have to say, I think come the end of the season, he'll be going back. I don't think we'll be keeping Aaron Ramsdale. I'll be very surprised if we pay the buyout clause to keep him there. He just doesn't look quite at the standard. And I'm not saying he's not good enough, because I think he is. I just think the lack of consistency with game time doesn't actually allow him to get a decent enough run to refine that form and become that Premier League goalie that he probably should be. So overall, I have to give credit to Qarabag because I think it's a valiant display to come away from home 6-1 down and still go into it and show the passion and the desire, even after going 2 goals down, to come back and lose 3-2. Big respect to them. Like I say, the leagues pale in comparison. The squad values pale in comparison. I think our squad value for a first team in the first leg was somewhere around 760 million compared to Qarabag's 26 million pound first team. So fair play to them. And then basically what I want to touch on, and I've got some statistics here to go through, is homegrown talent and the future of the Premier League. And I've got another video coming up. It's quite long-winded, based around the financials of football and the new SCR and how the Premier League's built. It's an interesting one if you like that sort of stuff. If you don't like that sort of stuff, I'd probably say skip the first 10 minutes and just go on to opinion, because the first 10 minutes there's a lot of information to take in. But when we're looking at the Newcastle squad, and I was going through looking at our young talent, so homegrown, we'll go with Lewis Miley. He's on £30,000 a week and is contracted till 2029. Now, I think Lewis Miley needs to be put on a bumper contract because he is a player that we value very highly. He's the future of this Newcastle team, and his stature has risen very quickly over the course of this season. And I feel like at the end of this season, we really need to put a marker down and say, you know, we value you. We want to keep you for longevity. We need to bump that contract up to somewhere where the temptation isn't to move on. And while Lewis Miley is born and bred a Newcastle player, a Geordie, there are other players in this team, young talents, that aren't. And I'll go straight to Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento. And both of these kids, Lewis Hall is on £45,000 a week and Tino Livramento is on £50,000 a week. Now, we purchased Jacob Ramsey in this summer window, and Jacob Ramsey is on £120,000 a week. He is on £75,000 more a week than Lewis Hall and £70,000 a week more than Tino Livramento. And we will struggle to keep talents if we don't pay the wages. But ironically, when you look at our squad, you look where we are in the table and you look across the Premier League, there is such a skew on wages and finances throughout clubs and players. I mean, Johan Wiss is on £140,000 a week. And I'll just give you a quick example compared to Wisser. His replacement, Thiago at Brentford, is on £75,000 a week. And Brentford's highest paid players are Jordan Henderson, Mikkel Damsgaard and Thiago, all on £75,000 a week. So Newcastle's, we're paying nearly double that for a striker that can barely hit form at the moment. But with regards to the homegrown talents, Lewis Miley, £30,000 a week. If I was to go across and look at Liverpool, two big ones. Connor Bradley, £75,000 a week. I feel that's a fair contract for his age, 22. And Curtis Jones, who I actually think is undervalued and underpaid here, at £50,000 a week at 25. And I think Curtis Jones is a fantastic player. To be on £50,000 a week, I genuinely feel he's a player that is being paid below his quality. And then the same if I was to look across at Aston Villa, and obviously we all know 23-year-old Morgan Rogers, the homegrown talent. And I'll be quite honest, this is the first one where I've seen Villa have put him on a new deal, and he is exactly where I think he should be. £150,000 a week till 2031. The first team I've seen paying the wages that he deserves for the performances he's putting in. And then if I move across to Arsenal, and this one baffled me, Max Dowman at 16 years old. Max Dowman is on more money than Lewis Miley in the reserves for Arsenal at £35,000 a week, having made a couple of cameo appearances, than Lewis Miley, who is going to be a mainstay, a future. And I understand this is Arsenal. It's comparing apples to oranges. But if we want to move into this realm and keep our youth players, you need to pay those sorts of wages. And when I compare Tino Livramento on £50,000 a week as Newcastle's right back and England prospect, Ben White, who doesn't even start for Arsenal, he's their backup right back, is on £150,000 a week. And this is where the wage structure is so varied across the Premier League, and why the big six, I feel, will eat up homegrown talents from clubs that need to sell under this new SCR ratio, the squad cost ratio, in order to keep affording to be able to spend. And if I went across Bournemouth again, highest paid player, Evan Nielsen on £85,000 a week. Brentford, highest paid player, Jordan Henderson, 75, we've already done. Crystal Palace, before they brought in Jorgen Strand Larsen and Brennan Johnson in this window, their highest paid player is Dean Henderson on 100,000, and they've moved as high as 120 for Strand Larsen. It just surprises me, the wages that Newcastle seem to be paying for the tier of talent we've purchased. Johan Wissa on £140,000 a week. He's on more wages than Voltemade, who's on 132. And I'll be quite honest, Voltemade is twice, 3 times, 4 times the prospect of Johan Wissa at 29. And I find it quite baffling that I think we'll really struggle to move Johan Wissa on. I think this might be another situation where he turns out to be another Callum Wilson, but without giving what Callum Wilson gave. I mentioned in the chat on with Chris from Evermore last night, Callum Wilson's got 5 goals in the Premier League. Johan Wissa with 1 this season. And even Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I think, has got 8 goals in the Premier League this season. So it surprised me when I looked through the wages that we're paying and the profile of the players. They don't quite align. I mean, players that have been important for us seem to have got bumper deals that I would say are above their station. Anthony Gordon is on £150,000 a week till 2030. And realistically, if you take the Champions League away, he's got, I think it's 3 goals in the Premier League this season, 2 of which are from penalties. And regards to Champions League goals, Anthony Gordon is on 10, but I'll just quickly look it up. Anthony Gordon is bewildering to me because his Champions League goals don't actually reflect the player that we're getting and the money that we're paying. But I think it's 6. So 6 goals in the Champions League for Anthony Gordon have been penalties. So when you look at those stats, it's not quite the same. 4 goals from open play, and even then, the teams he's scoring them against I think it's Union SG, Qarabag. He got one against Barcelona. They're not the most elite tier of Champions League teams. So I think they're very skewed on Anthony Gordon and him being a number 9. And what I will say is being most disappointed about last night was actually seeing the lack of confidence in Voltemade playing up front and seeing Voltemade being played in a system where Sandro Tonali, Joel Linton and Voltemade are a central midfield, because realistically, if you've got Sandro and Joel Linton in there, you don't need Voltemade to be sat as an 8. Change it up. Play a 10. Let him sit high. But realistically, press conference talks of he looks great sitting deep. It's how he plays for Germany. It's not how he plays for Germany. He plays as a 9 for Germany and drops deep, and then provides for the wingers and players that overlap him. And he has a higher brand of talent around him with a more fluid front line. You know, I think we need to change it up. Otherwise, we're not going to get the best out of him. And I think he'll probably push for a move away. But what I would say is, with regards to the talent we've brought in, Wissa, £140,000 a week, Nick Voltemade, 130, and Jacob Ramsey, £120,000 a week. I feel like Tino Livramento, Lewis Hall, Lewis Miley, they are players that should be closer to those wages. They are players that will go on to bigger things, and we want that to be with us and not with other clubs. And I think it's partly the reason we are seeing suitors like Manchester City trying to take talent like Tino Livramento away from us. So, like I say, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Make sure you get involved in the chat. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the subs. You guys have been great recently, as ever. And hopefully I will see you in the next one.